So what got me interested in portraying and performing USO and camp shows, honestly, was my background. I kind of fell into World War II reenacting from the beginning as a performer. My background is in theater and singing, and I've always loved history as well. So when I started getting involved in reenactments, I thought, how can I combine two things that I love dearly in life to represent when I go to events? And it just made sense to portray the entertainment side of the war and what was going on with entertainment for the troops during that time. So I researched a lot on the USO and camp shows to find out exactly how they were being done, where they were being done, everything and anything that went into that, and drawing from my theater background and singer background and incorporating that into it. So it's kind of been it's always been my main impression, and it's been very fortunate that a lot of events that I've traveled to around the country have been very receptive of that and allowing me to do what I do best for them. My first year at D-Day, Ohio was 2011. So this year would have marked my 10th anniversary of attending, but instead I'm just going to say next year is going to be my 10th anniversary part 2. I know a lot of World War II songs. I probably know as many World War II songs as I do musical theater songs, because that's my other thing I do in life. But I try to make it a goal of mine when I started getting really serious into portraying this aspect of getting down at least 25 to 30 World War II era songs. And I'm very selective. I make sure every single song that I sing in my repertoire was written, recorded before 1945 or before, I should say. So it's a lot. Sometimes I don't always remember all the lyrics, but I got 90% of them down. I apologize, this is going to be a long, detailed answer because it's really hard to narrow that down. I would say I think of all the amazing veterans that I've met, and I'll particularly focus on D-Day, Ohio. My very first year of going to D-Day, Ohio in 2011, I was brought up there on an invitation by Eric Montgomery, and I really didn't know what to expect. And he said, "You're going to sing in the Veterans Tent." And at that time, the Veterans Tent was not what it is today. It was a very, very small area with everyone underneath. And that first day I showed up, I happened to meet a man who just stole my heart. And I ended up becoming very good friends with him for the short amount of time. He unfortunately has passed now, but the short amount of time that he had left, I became good friends with him and his family. His name is Marion Gray, and he was there under the Veterans Tent, and I walked up to him just to shake the man's hand and thank him for his service, and it turned into this long, elaborate discussion of his life and his wife, who was still living at the time but not there, and he took a picture of her out of his wallet and showed me his sweetheart. I found out later, come to find out later, that the picture I gave him of myself, he ended up putting in his wallet next to his wife and walking around with it. But I always went out of my way to talk to him when he was there. I actually went and visited him at his home in Ohio. I still stay in touch with his family members, and when he did pass away, I did go to his funeral. So my friendship with him means a lot to me. I've also been incredibly blessed to meet so many other men there at D-Day, Ohio. There's just too many to name. But I do have to also say another great experience I've had with veterans at D-Day, Ohio is I've had the honor and the pleasure of performing the national anthem for the Legion of Honor ceremony there. Being on stage during that is very nerve-wracking. I'd like to say it's kind of terrifying yet humbling to sit there on stage with those men and honestly just watch them during the ceremony and how they react. But I'm very honored that I've been a part of that, and it's been a wonderful experience. And it reminds me of kind of the theme that I have as a reenactor and why I do what I do, and that is paying tribute to ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And that's kind of my motto I take with me in life when I'm meeting these veterans and when I'm performing for them, of just remembering these were just your average day people who answered an extraordinary call, and I am so honored to be among them and talk to them and perform for them. My most memorable moments of D-Day, Ohio. So I have two. And this other one popped into my head, and I was like, it's kind of just a funny moment that happened. I think it was 2018, maybe, and I was going around, being driven around in a Jeep with Vince Turner, who's my partner in crime for all the USO camp show stuff we do. And we drive the Jeep around to different locations throughout the event, and we just happened to be performing. It was right before the 5 o'clock battle, and it was kind of not really on it. It was at the bottom of a hill, and it was about to start raining. And everything happens, rain or shine. So, but I have a microphone and a speaker, and I have this electronic equipment that's not really good to get wet. So we literally had like an actual moment straight out of history, because this happened to plenty of camp show performers, where sometimes, wherever they went, they never knew what to expect and what conditions were going to be like, and that included weather. So I'm standing on the back of a Jeep, and I basically got two GIs holding up jackets and covering over my head to keep me dry while it is pouring down rain around us. And it kind of reminded us, there's a moment of Marlene Dietrich when she was going around, and I think there's a picture of her even like this, where she herself is underneath basically a tarp being held over her head by soldiers. And it wasn't really great for the guys at the time, but I think we look back and we laugh at it now. My other most memorable moment, I could not do this interview without touching base on this, was the fact that my very first year there, I ended up meeting the man that I would marry. And I'll tell you now, anyone who's watching this, if you're single, I don't know what it is about the town of Conneaut. There must be something in the water up there, because I am one of many people I know who have met at that event and ended up getting into a relationship and married. My brother-in-law met his fiance there. We have another set of friends who met there and are married now. But I went there just as a single gal, wasn't even looking to get involved with anybody. And I was just standing around getting ready to sing before the beach landing battle on that Saturday afternoon. And a man kind of yelled at me from a distance. And long story short, I walked over, I talked to him. I ended up getting a picture with his whole reenacting unit that was there. And the Discovery Channel was there as well. They ended up snapping film footage of us upon our initial meeting, and we ended up on national TV the day we met. And you know, here we are 9 years later. We ended up dating, getting engaged, and now we're happily married. So thank you, D-Day Ohio, for not only having an amazing World War II reenactment event, but one, for letting me come and do what I love, and two, getting my husband there so I got to meet him. Hello and welcome. A little bit of a dress change, but I now welcome you to the entertainment portion of my segment for D-Day Ohio, which is me entertaining you all with what I do at events, singing. So without further ado, I'm going to get things kicked off. First song I'm going to sing is a song that I normally start off 90% of the time when I do gigs or I sing at a World War II event. This is usually the song I start with. It's a wonderful song and has great energy. And it fits the criteria of being a song that was written in 1945 or before for the World War II years. This song was written in 1945. However, it wasn't made really well known and famous until a few years later in a movie where Betty Hutton sang it. So I hope you all enjoy. Without further ado, Stuff Like That There. I was alone on a shelf in a world by myself. Oh, where could my Prince Charming be? But a man came along, made my life like a song, and taught me these words of ecstasy tenderly. I want some hugging and some squeezing and some mugging and some teasing and some stuff like that there. I want some kissing and some spooning and some happy honeymooning and some stuff like that there. I used to think that love was just a lot of rubbish, a mess of cabbage, but now my attitude is holy lovey-dovish, and baby you've done it. I want some kissing and some hopping and some missing and some mopping and some stuff like that there. I want some reaping and some chasing and some weeping and some pacing and some stuff like that there. And when I get a certain feeling, I confess it, there's really only one expression to express it. I want some kissing and some hopping and some missing and some mopping and some weeping and some chasing and some weeping and some pacing and some stuff. I want some stuff like that there. I used to think romance was bunk, a double Mickey for the icky, but all at once my heart has sung, and baby you've done it. I want some kissing and some hopping and some missing and some mopping and some stuff like that there. I want some leaping and some chasing and some weeping and some pacing and some stuff like that there. And when I get a certain feeling, I confess it, there's really only one expression to express it. I want some hugging, squeezing, mugging, oh teasing, some stuff like that there. Woo! This next song I'm going to sing for you all is a favorite of mine. It's a song that I've been doing for probably the last 7 years at reenactments, and this is one of my standards that I do every time I come up to D-Day Ohio. This song is definitely from World War II, and my introduction to this song actually was not hearing it on a record or listening to big band and 1940s music. Funny story is I was actually introduced to this song through one of my all-time favorite movies. That particular movie is from 1992, A League of Their Own, a movie about All-American Girls Professional Baseball League that started during World War II. And in that movie, this particular song was performed by one of the actresses. And that was my first introduction to this song. And I thought, I'd like to sing that song one day. And when I started reenacting, it just made sense for me to find this song so I could perform it. So without further ado, I give you It Had to Be You. Why do I do the things you say? Why must I give you your way? Why do I sigh? Why do I try to forget? It must have been that something lovers call fate kept on saying I had to wait. I tried them all, just couldn't fall till we met. It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be true, could make me be blue, and just to be glad, just to be sad, thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be me, might try to be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do, for nobody else gave me a thrill. With all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. For nobody else gave me a thrill. With all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. This next song is a song that I finally found a track for a few years ago, and I've enjoyed singing it ever since. There's a funny story behind this song. I'll go ahead and tell you the title. It's called I've Heard That Song Before. When this song was recorded in 1944, it happened to be the very last song that was recorded right before a musician strike occurred. And once that strike happened, no other new music was being recorded. So the running joke was, oh, I've heard that song before? No, really, I've heard that song before. Because nothing new is being played on the radio, no new records are being released. I am glad to report that the musician strike finally did end and new music did get recorded finally. There's a whole history and a whole story there. Feel free to go research and look it up. But I'm going to get things kicked off here with I've Heard That Song Before. It seems to me I've heard that song before. It's from an old familiar score. I know it well, the melody. It's funny how a theme recalls a favorite dream, the dream that brought you so close to me. Because I've heard that song before. The lyrics say forevermore, forevermore the memory. Please have them play it again, and I'll remember just when I heard that lovely song before. This next tune was a song that I have sung from the very beginning. Again, like stuff like that there. This is one of the other songs that I started out in my reenacting career as a singer. I performed it my very first year at D-Day, Ohio in the Veterans Tent. And I have proceeded to pretty much perform it every year for the veterans. A funny story, and I honestly do not remember the gentleman's name who told me this, but I always share this story every time I perform this song. This veteran, after I performed this song, he pulled me aside and he said, you know, I was overseas, I was over in Europe, and I've been to England, and I've been to the area of the place that you're singing about in that song. And I said, oh, you don't say. And he said, yes, and I'll let you in on a little secret. And I said, oh, what's that, sir? And he just proceeded to have the smirk on his face, and he said, you know those white cliffs of Dover that you sing about? Well, you know why they're white, don't you? And I just stood there waiting for him to tell me, and he never really said any more. And then very quietly he said, you know, lots of seagulls. And left it at that and didn't say one more thing to me, and basically walked away. And I was just left stunned thinking, what was that encounter? But that has stuck with me, and I know it's a ridiculous image to have in your head as I sing this next song, but The fact is, it's very near and dear to my heart because even as crazy of a story as that is, that song made that veteran recall a time in his life. And that's the beautiful thing about a lot of the songs that I do when I sing them for these vets, is they don't necessarily talk to me about their time in combat. They don't talk to me about, you know, those things that they may not quite care to remember. But what they do talk about is the music they heard and the girl they danced with and, you know, what they were wearing and where they were when they heard certain songs. And this particular song, I've been told many of them heard over in England, heard over in Europe. So it's my great pleasure to be able to sing this song for you all listening. Without further ado, this is White Cliffs of Dover. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep. The valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, when the world is free. So here I am with my final song I'm going to perform for you all today. This song I felt was a wonderful song to end on, particularly just because we can't all be together this year in the capacity that we're used to. D-Day Ohio is probably my favorite event that I go to every year. And it is heartbreaking to not be there in person with everyone, to be there with the veterans, to be there with the public, to be there with friends. But hopefully next year we will all meet again and be able to continue on the wonderful legacy that this event has become. This song is also a song that I've sung from the very beginning of my performing career at World War II reenactments. It's a song that I sing often not only to veterans, but also I've sung this song many times at the event before the beach landing battle. And most people always feel that it's just very appropriate to sing before that battle. I don't have much else to say about it other than it's very near and dear to my heart. And I also want to sing this in memory of the woman who made it famous, Miss Vera Lynn, who left us this year, not that long ago, at 103 years old, and she was, you know, the sweetheart of England as a singer during the war. So this is for her memory and also for all the veterans out there. Thank you. Thank you, past and present, currently serving, to all our men and women in uniform. I thank you for all that you do. Like you always do, till those blue skies roll the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet